So I thank all the devotees, Shraddha Mataji, JP Prabhuji, thank you for coming. So today, welcome to the Sunday Feast lecture at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Today the topic of today's discussion, I was hoping will be a for self mainly, but the topic today is envy, and we can discuss a little bit. Hare Krishna, Antadev Prabhu. We'll start with the Kirtan, because we recently celebrated the Gaur Purnima. And so, Shraddha Mataji, if you can read the translation for the first four, and then... Hare Krishna. First four.
His complexion is the hue of fresh cream, tinged with kumkum. He is the ever-fresh Cupid who shoots arrow of newly blossoming flowers. He bears newer and newer moods of emotional ecstasies. He is fond of performing novel dances. He makes ever-new jokes that cause much laughter. His brilliant luster is like freshly cast gold. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi. He is endowed with ever-fresh love of Godhead. His radiant luster is like the color of fresh butter. His fresh attire is arranged in ever-new fashions. He relishes ever-new mellows of love for Krishna. He shines in ninefold new ways while executing the ninefold processes of devotion. He is permeated with a most auspicious loving nature. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi. He is absorbed in devotion to Sri Hari. He maintains the chanting of the names of Hari. While chanting, he counts the holy names on the fingers of his hands. He is addicted to the name of Hari. He always has tears of love welling in his eyes. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi. He is always removing the suffering of material existence for mankind. He is the goal of life for persons who are dedicated to the supreme interest. He inspires men to become like honeybees, eager for the honey of Krishna Prema. He removes the burning fever of the material world. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi.
So Anshu, two more, and then Prabhuji, last two.
He motivates pure devotion unto himself. He is most attractive to his beloved servitors. By his dramatic dancing, he exhibits the characteristics of the king of paramours. He causes the minds of beautiful young village women to dance. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi. He plays kartals as his throat emits sweet melodious sounds, and the vibrant notes of the veena are softly played. He thus inspires the devotees to perform dramatic dancing that is infused with aspects of his own devotional service. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi.
It's right here. Yeah. Park. Okay. I'll ask.
7.
Ask
He is accompanied by the Sankirtana movement, which is the religious practice for the age of Kali. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj, come again. He is the extraordinarily brilliant ornament of the earth.
Thank you.
His preaching mood is suitably adapted to the cycle of birth and death. His consciousness is fixed in meditation on his own form of Krishna. He is always accompanied by his transcendental abode. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi.
Thank you. Last one, please. 8.
His eyes, the soles of his feet, and his clothing are reddish like the color that heralds the rising sun. As he utters his own names, his voice falters. He awakens a sweet flavor to life throughout the universe. I bow down to Gaura, the beautiful son of Mother Sachi.
Thank you. Just before we go ahead, I've been asked to make an announcement. If you have parked your car in the temple premises, You have to remove that and park on the road because the kids usually play there and we need the parking lot empty. I have mine there, I have to remove it, and I've been excused for today, but I'll do it maybe a little later. Forgot. Nava Gauravaram Nava Pushpasharam Nava Bhavadharam Nava Lasya Param Nava Gauravaram Nava Pushpasharam Nava Bhavadharam Nava Lasya Param Nava Hasyakaram Nava Hemavaram Pranamami Sachi Sutta Gauravaram Nava Premayutam Navanita Shucham Nava Veshakritam Nava Premarasam Navadhavilasa Shubha Premamayam Pranamami Sachi Sutta Gauravaram Hari Bhakti Param Hari Namadharam Karajapya Karam Hari Nama Param Nayane Satatam Pranayashrudharam Pranamami Sachi Sutta Gauravaram Satatam Janata Bhavatapaharam Paramartha Parayana Lokagatim Navalehakaram Jagatapaharam Pranamami Sachi Sutta Gauravaram 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 Neja Bhakti Karam Priya Charutaram Natanartana Nagara Rajakulam कुलकामिनी मानस लास्यकरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् करतालवलं कलकण्ठरवं मृदुवाद्यसुवीनिकया मधुरम् निजभक्तिगुणावृतनाट्यकरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् युगधर्मयुतं पुनर्नन्दसुतं धरणीसुचित्रं भवभावचितम् तनुध्यानचितं निज वासयुतं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् अरुणं नयनं चरणं वसनं वदने स्खलितं स्वकनामधरम् कुरुते सुरसं जगताजीवनं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरं प्रणमामि शचीसुत गौरवरम् हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to all the devotees who have come here for the ISKCON of Silicon Valley Sunday Feast lecture. So today we will delve a little bit into what is called commonly envy in this material world, and we can discuss a little bit of facets of this whole aspect of what envy is, and how can we overcome the envy, and what are the causes and the root causes, and we can go a little bit deeper into that. We try to cover as much as we can because it's a deep topic. We'll try to cover the broad facets, and then we can go deeper if need be at any point of time. Is that okay? Is it a good plan? But before we start, we usually offer what is called the Mangalacharan prayers, or prayers invoking auspiciousness, so that we can understand the scriptures by the grace of Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Matsamo nasti papatma, naparadhi chakaschana, parihare pilajjame, kimbruve purushottama. Bhumau skalita padanam, Bhumireva valambanam Tvai jata paradhanam Tvameva sharanam prabhu. Govinda vallabhe radhe Prarthaye tvamaham sada Tvadiyam niti janatu Govindo mam tvaya saha. Radha radhita radhesha Radhika prana vallabha Radha ramana vandetvam Radhika prema nirjita. Hare Krishna. So, with the permission of my esteemed God siblings and all the devotees here, what is envy? What is your definition of what envy is? Yes, Venudhari Prabhu. Yes, go ahead. You can look up envy, please. Look up envy. Yeah.
It's like I should be having something, but somebody else has it. So I'm like envious. I mean,
Right.
jealous of that person.
It's a feeling of sadness or anger of someone possessing something that I don't have. Excellent. Okay. Shraddha Mataji is the official.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to give you the Vaisheshika version.
Okay. No, you have to give me that first.
Okay.
That is more important than anything else.
The Vaisheshika Prabhu says the inability to tolerate the eminence of others.
Thank you.
And the dictionary says that it's a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, quality, or luck.
Thank you. So somebody has something that I don't, and I feel envious. And that is, in a nutshell, what envy is. Should I tell some stories? And then we can get into, okay. Bhishma Dev had taken a vow of, thank you. Bhishma Dev had taken a vow of celibacy because his father was Shantanu Maharaj and he was attracted to Satyavati. Satyavati's father, now he met Satyavati and he was very despondent, having given her heart to her, but being a king, he couldn't marry. And actually, he could marry. He asked the fisherman, saying that, I want to marry your daughter. And the fisherman's father, the Satyavati's father, the fisherman said, no, I cannot give you my daughter in marriage. You know why? Because Bhishma is there already, your son, who is born of Ganga, and he will be the king. And if you marry my daughter, then the children born of my daughter will be the servants of Bhishma. And I cannot tolerate that. You know, you're the king, they have to be the king. So it started right from there. And Shantanu was devastated. He gave the kingdom, he appointed Bhishma to be the crown prince of the entire Hastinapur. And now he cannot go and say, you know what, I'm revoking your offer. It doesn't work that way in those times. And on the other hand, he couldn't marry Satyavati. He was despondent, devastated, and Bhishma could see the entire unhappiness written on his father's face. He goes and asks him what happened, and then he gets to know all this has happened, and he takes a vow in front of the fisherman that I'll never marry. And then because, he first says that I'll give up the throne, don't worry about it. No, but what happens if you get married and your sons will claim to the throne? And then he says, I won't marry. And he takes a terrible vow. And that vow has some serious ramifications because the kingdom of Hastinapur is left with no throne, no heir to the throne. And then Vyasdeva appears, and then because of which three children are born, which is Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and Vidura. And Pandu was blind by birth. So he was the eldest, but he was blind by birth. So he was disqualified from sitting on the throne. And therefore Pandu was made the king. And circumstances changed. Pandu went to the forest. He had a curse to deal with. And Dhritarashtra became the king in absence of Pandu, guided by his ministers. And we know the story of how Pandu had 5 children in the forest. And Dhritarashtra had 100 children, 101. Technically speaking, 100 sons and 1 daughter. And when Duryodhana was born amongst those 100 children, there were terrible omens. Jackals were shrieking, and birds were breathing fire. The cows were walking on the left side. And seeing all these omens, Vidura and the other ministers told Dhritarashtra that these omens portend that this child is going to be the cause of the destruction of your dynasty. You have to abandon him. But Dhritarashtra doesn't listen. He says, I am the king and my word is a final and I cannot. So Duryodhana is born. And along with the 100 sons, they grow up into their teenagers. they are alone in Hastinapur, and they are enjoying the royal comforts. Pandu and his sons were in the forest somewhere. But it so happens that Pandu dies. Because of a curse, Pandu is dead, and his second wife Madri also alights the pyre with him, and Kunti is left with her 5 sons, who are Yudhishthir, Bhima, and the twins Nakula and Sahadev. And they come back to Hastinapur because they have no other refuge. A widow in those days had to be protected somehow, and she couldn't face the life in forest with 5 sons on her own. When she comes to Hastinapur, that time the envy of Duryodhana begins. Till this time, he was granted to be the emperor of the world. But now come in these 5 brothers from nowhere. And Bhima was the strongest of them all. He was having the strength of 10,000 elephants. And, the Kaurava, sports, boys means that, they won't be sitting making garlands. At least in those times, Kshatriya wise, no offense to the garland makers, they are beautiful. But, they would have sports and they would fight with each other. And then 50 or 60 Kauravas would at the same time jump on Bhima, and Bhima would just slap them off like this. And then when the children felt hurt, Bhima would laugh at them. And Duryodhana's envy started burning. He said, this is terrible. This Bhima is going to be the cause of my insult. And then you can see he tried to kill Bhima by giving him poison cake. Bhima survived that. And Duryodhana was shocked. How is it that I tried to kill Bhima, giving him a poisoned cake, and he survived? It's an amazing story, but I don't want to go into the details. The nutshell of that story was he was given poison which was manufactured from the plants. And he was given poison, it is said, Mahabharata says he was given poison enough to kill 100 people. 100 strong grown-up men would have died with the amount of poison that he ate. And they had to do some trial runs before this assassination attempt. And they found the quantity of poison they gave to Bhima was very less. It was actually not having any effect on him. So they really spiked up the doses of the poison. And then he was given poison, and then when he felt groggy and he felt unconscious, his hands and feet were tied and bound, and he was thrown into Ganges. Duryodhana was happy thinking that, Bhima is dead. My sworn enemy is dead. And Bhima, he goes to regions of Varuna, where his own forefathers, they meet him. And a long story short, the serpents in the nether regions, they bite him. And now, he took poison from Duryodhana, and the serpents, when you bite him, sure case you will be dead, yes or yes, most of the times. But it is mentioned that the antidote to plant poison is the serpent poison. So Bhima was administered the plant poison. The antidote to that was the serpent poison. By actually taking the bite from the serpent, the poison was neutralized. And he got some nectar. He came back 10 times stronger. So then after that, the 5 brothers, they really became more popular than Duryodhana. By their virtue, by their behavior, by their well-mannered attitude. And then Duryodhana's envy again started burning. He said, this is ridiculous. Some plan has to be made to eliminate these people. And then he builds a house made of lac, flammable substances. And then he says to the Pandavas, he says to Duryodhana, because right now he cannot say anything to the Pandavas. The nature of an envious person is such that you use the authority. Dhritarashtra was his father, and he was very attached to him. He was very, very blind to all his activities. So he said, oh father, we should send all these Pandavas on a hiking trip to the forest. In those days, hiking trip doesn't mean that you take a bag and put some bottle and chips or bars and then you go. Actually, if you say, I have to visit the kings, when they visited the forest, they would actually, the big houses would be built for their pleasure, and they would stay there. And Duryodhana instructed one of his trusted aides called Virochana. He said, look, make this house completely flammable. mix the mud with a lot of ghee and oil and build the house with that. And on the top, put lac, which is like, it'll burn right on the contact. And then paint the lac with such scents that nobody can suspect it's lac. And then in the house, everywhere spread all the ghee. Put ghee and oil everywhere you can, so that the fuel can kind of burn nicely. And then Pandavas, they come through that. They escape. Long story short, Vidura tells them that, this is going to happen. And he sends a very trusted person who can dig tunnels. So that they dig a tunnel through the house up to the Ganges river, and they go incognito for some time, and then they marry Draupadi, and they come back. Duryodhana is shocked. Oh my goodness gracious, what has happened? And when they come back with Draupadi, he has no choice. That the question of the kingdom, who will be the king, was burning. And then Dhritarashtra, he divides his kingdom into two halves. The prosperous, wealthy side of Hastinapur is given to and the barren Khandava-prastha is given to But by Krishna's mercy, that barren lands become a flourishing city, metropolis. And Yudhishthir, he says, I have to perform Rajasuya sacrifice. In those days, Rajasuya sacrifice was something to be performed. It meant that all the emperors had to offer tributes to Yudhishthir and would consider him as the emperor of the world. Duryodhana was seeing all this. His envy was burning. Please understand, Duryodhana was not homeless at this point of time with zero bank balance and begging for an existence. He had everything. He was the favorite of his father. They had big palaces, hundreds of servants. Yet the heart was burning, because envy is such that if the envy takes root in your heart, it's very dangerous to get rid of. And the more you focus on the object of the envy, the more deeper the envy grows in your heart. And then, because then the Rajasuya sacrifice is performed, Yudhishthir asks all his 4 brothers to go to 4 directions. And they go to different directions. And they conquer the kings. Arjuna goes north. I don't remember. Bhima goes south, Nakula east. And they capture different kings and they offer tributes. And the Rajasuya sacrifice begins. Krishna, along with his relatives from Dwarka come, and the kings from different parts of the world come. And there's a huge city established just for that sacrifice. And when all the relatives come, usually there is a function at home, all the relatives come and chip in. They say, hey, tell me, what can I help? How can I help? Yes or yes? Yes. So, Bhima was given in charge of kitchen. And, what was Krishna in charge of? Washing the feet of all the Brahmins who came for the Rajasuya sacrifice. Fortunately or unfortunately, Duryodhana was in charge, of what? Of the gifts. All the different hundreds of kings who came to Hastinapur, taking the tributaries, they were giving it to Duryodhana, so that Duryodhana can take it, account it, and put it into the treasury. He was flabbergasted by the amount of treasury that was coming in. He saw some emeralds that he never seen in his whole life. And he is not a homeless person or an illiterate person. He was the king. He was accustomed to seeing riches. There were such fine rugs coming in from north, such exotic animals he had never seen in his whole life. The skin of animals, the jewels, the gold. It was coming in by carts and carts and carts to Hastinapur, and Duryodhana was accounting this. His envy started even growing more and more and more and more. And then somehow or other the Rajasuya sacrifice happens. And all the acquaintances and business kind of kings, they leave back. But Duryodhana, being the member of the family, along with Krishna, stays there for some more time in Hastinapur. And then he says, I want to see your hall, assembly hall. And he's taken into that assembly hall. And he's astounded by the beauty of the assembly hall and the illusions that are. that seems to be like that floor that seemed to be like beautiful painted floor, but actually there were flowers in the water. And then Duryodhana didn't realize, he fell into the water. And Draupadi and the other ladies, they started laughing. And Duryodhana's heart burnt even more. Then somehow or other that embarrassment was kind of behind him. He thought, okay, I'm done with this insult and embarrassment. I'm going to get out of this hall. And he started walking towards the door. What appeared to be a door. It was a block of solid glass. He rammed into that glass and he fell back with his nose crushed. And 3 or 4 people had to lift him up. And he's like, he just shook them off and just walked off. Then it resolved that I'm going to get, he was such burning with envy, he said, I'm going to get all the kingdom, the riches, and I want to be the emperor of the earth. And then using foul means, unfair means at dice, he won the kingdom of the Pandavas. And they were exiled to go for how many years into the forest? 12, and 1 year is? And if they are discovered during that period, then what? That was Duryodhana's plan, perpetually put them in forest. But here was the deal though. Now Duryodhana achieved what he wanted. His quote-unquote enemies were in forest, living on barely roots and fruits of the forest. They were wearing deer skins. They were wearing bark of the trees. In fact, they were going from one forest to another forest. Duryodhana, was he happy? No. Why, Hari Sankirtan Prabhu? He got everything he wanted. You have to elaborate on that. I didn't hear you. Neither did the audience online.
When he thought that they are happy in the forest also, and he wanted to see them unhappy. His main motive was that they should be unhappy and not happy anywhere they live. Actually.
Thank you. This is the nature of envy, is that even though you get everything, the object of envy still is there in the heart, and you are not satisfied till they are completely destroyed. His goal, as long as the Pandavas lived, there was no peace in his heart, because he knew that they will come back and then they will, cause disturbance to his position. This is the nature of envy. That no matter how much you have, you still want to, that envy is still sitting in your heart and it's never satisfied. His envy was such that he said, I'm not satisfied. His evil-minded uncle and friend said, you should go to forest. You should flaunt your wealth. Your wives should wear the finest silk garments. And you should parade them before the Pandavas, so that it will be such a wonderful contrast. Your richness, your riches, and your majesty, your opulence, versus their homeless nature in forest. And that's a wonderful idea. But you know what? Dhritarashtra will not allow it. Oh yeah, we need to make a plan. How can we go to the forest where the Pandavas will live? Then they said, oh yeah, I know an idea. Karna, Shakuni and Duryodhana, they think about it, they go back and they sleep over the idea. Literally, they come back next day morning. Karna says, this is the idea, I know. What? Look, this is the time you need to count your cattle. Every Kshatriya, they have to count their cattle, or take the population, census, cattle census. They have to do that. And this is the time to do that. Let's go to the forest. And on that pretext, we can go and humiliate the Pandavas. I say, it's a good idea. Then they go to Dhritarashtra. They say, no, we have to go to forest and we have to count our cattle. Dhritarashtra says, are you sure? Because I heard the Pandavas are living there. He knew the rash and stupid nature of Duryodhana. He thought Duryodhana will do something stupid and there will be a fight and the Pandavas will kill him because they are burning with wrath. And no, we won't even go anywhere near Pandavas. We'll be far away from them. But we'll go there, we'll have some fun, hiking, camping trip. Then they go. And there is a lake that is there. The Pandavas are on the other side of the lake. And the Kauravas have their camp 2 miles this side of the lake. They come to know that the Pandavas are on the other side of the lake. Duryodhana says, come on, let's build some houses right across the, seaside property, lakeside properties. Let's create some lakeside properties right here so that we can go ahead and we can humiliate. The idea there is the envy is so strong that you possess everything, you still want to see your enemies down. And this is such a cruel nature of envy that you have in your heart. And then they say, okay, let's build some lakeside properties. And then the Pandavas are on the other side. They have their small tents. We'll have our huge mansions and buildings, our towering buildings. Then that would be humiliating enough. And the soldiers go and they start building the property. And the Gandharvas, who are the owners of the lake, they say, hey, what are you doing here? This is our lake. And there is a fight between the Gandharvas and Kauravas. And the Kauravas are captured. All the 100 Kauravas, Karna is defeated, Kauravas are captured. And then Yudhishthir gets the news. He's right across the lake. Yudhishthir, the Kaurava soldiers go and say, Yudhishthir, Duryodhana, he's been captured by the Gandharvas. Please save him. And then Bhima says, good thing happened. Siri is also excited. Good. Bhima says, excellent. This is what is needed. They ruined us. They grabbed our kingdom through unfair means. Because of them, we are suffering in the forest. Gandharvas captured. It should be nice. Yudhishthira says, no, they are our family. You should go and... The 5 brothers, in spite of their differences, they had one thing common. If Yudhishthira said something, they would follow it, even though they didn't like it. That was Yudhishthira said, look, I am sitting and doing the sacrifice with Draupadi. I can't get up in the middle of sacrifice and fight with you. You 4 go and capture the Gandharvas. Long story short, the moment comes where the Gandharvas get the Kauravas captured in the chains, and they say to Yudhishthira, these are your prisoners. Do whatever you want to do with them. All Yudhishthira had to do is give me your kingdom and get lost, because we saved you, we protected you, now your kingdom is ours. Duryodhana wanted to humiliate the Pandavas, but he got the exact opposite results. So the envy is such that no matter how wherever it is placed, it just causes a destruction, and your thinking gets warped, the intelligence gets warped. That is the important thing. Yudhishthira, on the other hand, he was an emblem of virtue in terms of he never envied. He was feeling sad. Anand Mataji Haribol. He was feeling sad, don't get me wrong. Many sages came to him in the forest. Many Vyasdev, Narada, Markandeya, Lomasha, everybody came to forest to be with Pandavas, and they gave him good counsel. And he was asking the questions, what did we do wrong? We are virtuous people. We have not sinned. But yet we are here in the forest suffering. And my wife, Draupadi, who's born a princess, who was never accustomed to this life of harsh forest living, now she's lying on the bare floor, and she's used to dressing with the finest silks, is wearing the bark of the trees. Where is the justice? Yudhishthira did ask those questions, but he never gave the order. He could have given the order to Bhima. In fact, Bhima was saying, are you a Brahmana? Are you a coward? Your enemies have robbed you of your kingdom. They have humiliated your wife, and yet you are not giving us orders. Give us the orders today, we'll go destroy them. And Yudhishthira said, no. We said 12 years in forest, 1 year incognito, we are going to follow that. He had to tolerate that difficulty from within too. But Yudhishthira was never deviating in spite of the pain that he had taken. But Duryodhana, on the other hand, his evil tendencies knew no bounds in humiliating the Pandavas because of his envy. So the envy is such deep-rooted. But eventually, as you can see, Duryodhana is devastated or killed in the battlefield. This is one story of envy. It's a question: only men are envious, or women are also envious? Ate? Yes. Both. Thank you. Any story? I was thinking of a particular story on Bhagavatam. Chitraketu. Thank you very much. Does everybody know the story of Chitraketu, or should I tell a little bit? Please. Thank you. So Maharaj Chitraketu, this is Bhagavatam says, and in those days it's possible. So don't get too scared by this fact. Okay? I'm just telling you right now. He had 10 million wives. I'm not making the numbers up. They are mentioned in Bhagavatam. Unfortunately, none of the 10 million wives could actually give him a son. And he was despondent. Angira came to his kingdom and he said, destiny is like that. If you're near destiny, if you have kids, then you'll get kids. Even if you don't want. There are stories, don't get me wrong. But if you're near destiny you don't have, then it's just you can have 10 million wives and still have no children. So Angira comes. Oh, king, I see you very pale. What has happened? Why are you so despondent? He said, sage, every king has to have a son so that you can pass the kingdom, train the son. There was a training involved. You just not, because you are a son of a rich man, you get into colleges by bribe and then get the positions like free of cost. It didn't work those days. I had to train him up and I have to pass the kingdom on to him. And I don't have a son. And then Angira said, look, we can give you a son, but the son will be the cause of your intense happiness and excruciating pain. It doesn't matter, I want a son. And Angira performs a sacrifice, and his first wife, or the wife who bears him a son, is Kritadyuti. And that son gives the parents the intense joy, both the queen and the father. How many wives did he have exactly? Again? 10 million, thank you. So there were 9,999,999 wives who didn't have a son. And they became envious. They said, this queen has given him the child, and this king is looking after her as if she is queen, and we are worse than maidservants. And they started getting envy. And that envy, Bhagavatam says, the root had taken, and every day seeing the child, the envy grew and grew and grew. Until one day, all of them conspired and poisoned the child and killed the child. So, this is another story from Srimad Bhagavatam, where envy, and it is mentioned in Bhagavatam, how envy can actually warp or befuddle or destroy one's intelligence to do the right thing. So, so what else do you think? In the material nature, it can be the source of intense dissatisfaction. And when you move it into the realms of spiritual nature, then there can be a lot of offenses, and our own spiritual advancement can be effectively blocked. This is the nature of, this is the effects of envy. because everything belongs to Krishna and everything is happening with Krishna, when I exhibit my envy to someone who is better than me, then ultimately, whom am I envying? It is Krishna himself who is the source of everything to everyone. By Krishna's mercy, everyone gets their position. You cannot simply say that, I shouldn't be having this, whereas the other person should be. One way, so unless ultimately that envy extends to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saying that, and the Acharyas have said that envy to the Lord is what caused us to be in this material world, and that envy extends to his parts and particles. So this is and then that's why Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter, Bhaktosi me sakacheti. So he's saying that because you're not envious of me, you can actually grasp this message of Bhagavad Gita. Any questions? Any? Yes, Hari Sankirtan Prabhu. We'll go to the next part, which is to overcome our steps.
So, when we read this verse, because we are not envious of me, I am your friend, and all those things. And we also say that envy means that we try to harm others technically. So in the spiritual world, if we are envious of Krishna, how are we trying to harm him? When physically we are not capable of harming Krishna at all, right? So, and in the spiritual world, we also have the knowledge that we cannot harm Krishna. So how are we envious actually?
Again, it comes to the fall of Jiva kind of thing, more or less, right? How the envy can come about?
No, why are we envious? How, or not why also, but what is that envy that technically we are talking about? Because definition of envy in sense, we say that it's like causing harm to others. But how are we in that sense envious?
Envious is because God is enjoying, I want to enjoy like him, but independent
But
of
is it
him.
more jealousy, right? Is it envy or jealousy in that sense?
Well, okay, that's a good point. He brought up jealousy, you brought up jealousy. What's the difference between jealousy and envy? I did a little bit of research, Okay.
As far as I know, envy is like we try to harm others. Jealousy means we want that for some other person has. Envy is that we want that, we don't want the other person to have that too.
The psychologists, what they have said, envy and jealousy, it's interchangeable, but I do agree, and I'll tell you why. Psychologists have said that envy means lack of something that I have that other has is envy. And jealousy is something that I have and others might take away, or others might interfere with that. So that is, usually jealousy is three persons involved, or three players involved, whereas envy is only two players, because lack of what they have or lack of what I have that they have, that is envy. But I do possess something, especially a relationship. A husband might be might be jealous of a person who might be overly close or overly friendly with his wife, or wife may be very jealous of the person who is being close to her husband. So that could be one example that jealousy is involved.
This definition of envy makes sense. The definition I heard was different. That's why it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so that's what is the difference between that. So yeah, Prabhuji had something, he raised his hand. Harisaketa Prabhu, okay.
Prabhuji, obviously we see a lot of examples of how envy can actually destroy you. But then we also have an example of Vasishtha versus Vishwamitra, where Vishwamitra also had envy for Vasishtha, but that took him to a whole different platform, turned him into a great sage. So can envy be used to your advantage?
The after effects that happen as a result of your envy, the responses are individual and you can choose your response. But in some cases, in case of Duryodhana, it never happened. Let me tell an example. So, after the Pandavas came back to ask for their kingdom, Duryodhana said no, and we know the story of how he refused to give even the land that a needle can pierce. That's a big thing. Because at one point they try to avoid every single thing they can to not have the war. And then Krishna and the Pandavas said, okay, just give us 5 villages. We'll be happy with 5 villages. Again, the nature of envy was such. Duryodhana was so envious. He said, I won't even give the land, even that needle thingy comes up. Now the war becomes inevitable. In fact, Duryodhana becomes so crooked in his envy that when Krishna goes to Hastinapur on a peace mission to get the kingdom back from the Pandavas, Duryodhana's crooked thinking goes, let me arrest Krishna and throw him in the prison. When I arrest him, he is the backbone of the Pandavas. Their morale will be destroyed and there will be no more war. So the envy can get negative consequences, but the responses to those is ours. You can learn from envy and become a better person, or you can still rot in that same cycle. So the choice would be yours. Duryodhana, even towards the end, so the war began. And then Duryodhana and Kauravas had how many divisions of army with them? 11. They had 11. The Pandavas they were outnumbered. They were truly outnumbered. And then Duryodhana had this thing, I'm much more powerful, numbers are mine, they have no chance. And when 18 days of war happens, and then when the devastation happens, then Duryodhana seriously starts to think, what's happening? Then he realizes, maybe I should have listened to Vidura, maybe I should have listened to the great sages. The other point is, it's not that the sages didn't warn Duryodhana. See, if you have envy, then you block out the spiritual good advice that is being given to you under your hubris. And then you can't make much progress. That's why the envy, Krishna, that's why he says, if you are envious of me, then you can't understand what I'm trying to say. Duryodhana actually, Markandeya Rishi comes to the court and he is very angry with Duryodhana. He says, Duryodhana, you are such a fool, you don't understand the consequences of your actions. You are destroying your entire dynasty by your wicked behavior. What does Duryodhana do at that point of time? He is like yawning. He just stretches out like this, yawning. And then he starts taking the toenail and then makes parts on the ground. And then he opens up the dhoti to expose his thigh, saying that I really don't care about what you're trying to say. And Markandeya Rishi curses him. He says that because of your insolent nature, you have done this, your thigh will be smashed by Bhima. He curses him. And in the end, we can see how during the war, Bhima actually smashes Duryodhana's thigh and he is destroyed. So it depends. It depends on how is your reaction and how intelligent you can become through these. Yeah. Is that helpful? Thank you. Okay. Yes, Ramanand Sakaprabhu, please.
Just want to give another example in the same story.
Yeah.
Is that
please.
When Gandhari and Kunti, they both became pregnant, Kunti happens to give birth first.
Yeah.
When Gandhari came to know that Kunti already delivered, she was so upset that she beats her stomach with her own hands, and then she gives birth to a dead matter.
Right.
And Gandhari. And then by the grace of Vyasadeva, that dead matter gets divided into 100 pieces and each becomes a child. And what I want to say here is that even though Gandhari is very, very chaste, she was she's mentioned along with very highly chaste woman in the history. Even though she's so chaste, still she has envy.
Nice, excellent, thank you. Wonderful point that you brought up. Because just to add to what he said, she beats her stomach so hard that the dead matter comes out. But she says, Vyasdev gave me a blessing that I'll be blessed with 100 sons who have a long life. Now what has this happened? And then as you pointed out, Vyasdev comes and then he divides the whole, that lump of flesh into 100 parts and put them soaked in a ghee. And then when the time comes, the babies are born, test tube babies. Thank you. Any other point you wanted to mention? Okay. Yes, Shamarupa Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class and wonderful topic.
Thank you.
And just one example I was remembering is, although we apparently may seem to make like spiritually in a very high position, but it is very difficult to get rid of envy. For example, in case of Ramanujacharya, there was a Mahant of a mott, means head of a mott, who became envious by seeing Ramanujacharya, apparently junior and young sannyasi, drawing so much popularity. So he was so envious that first he was blaspheming him like anything, and secondly he actually wanted to kill him. So one day when he is visiting the temple taking darshan of their lordships, after that when he was giving Charanamrita, he actually gave poison.
Krishna.
But Ramanujacharya very happily took that, and so that shows that how difficult it is to actually, because this is the original sin, the original disease. So this is so deep-rooted. Yeah, so we are very eager to hear the second part of it, to get rid of it. Because although we may do so many other things, as Ramanand Sakhara was telling, chaste, this, that, but as long as we have envy in our heart, that actually retracts Krishna's mercy. So thank you very much for touching.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So the first part comes from Srimad Bhagavatam. When the story of Dhruva Maharaj is there, is the story of real deep emotion of how a 5-year-old boy is insulted by his own stepmother. In fact, should I recap the story of Dhruva, or should we? Okay. Achyuta Chaitanya Prabhu said yes, then we should do it. So, who is the original couple in the universe? Brahma created who? Manu and Shatarupa. Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa. In one day of Brahma there are 14 Manus, and the first of the Manus was Swayambhuva Manu, and he had a wife Shatarupa. They had 5 children, and in our Bhakti Vaibhava classes we use the mnemonic DAPUP. D-A-P-U-P. Okay. Devavati, Akuti, Priyavrata, Uttanapada and Priyavrata. So in that descendant of the children of Swayambhuva Manu, Uttanapada had 2 wives who were Surichi and Suniti. And Suniti had Dhruva as her son, and Suruchi had Uttama as her son. And one day, its children have this competitive nature. And parents who have more than one kid can attest to that if one child tries to do one thing, the other child also wants to do the same thing. In fact, it doesn't matter. If it is the most useless thing, if one wants it, I want it. Yes or yes? So Uttama, one day he started, it's a 5-year-old boy. I don't know the age of Uttama, Bhagavatam doesn't tell, but pretty much they should be around the same age. But Dhruva was 5. So Uttama tried to clamber up onto his father's lap and get some affection from the father's lap. And Uttama did that, and Dhruva Maharaj also wanted to do that. Valivardhan Prabhu Haribol. So Dhruva also wanted to do that. He wanted to clamber on the top of his father's lap and get some affection. And then the mother of Uttama became angry. She said to Dhruva, "O child, don't you know that I am the king's favorite queen? How dare you sit on the lap of your father? Your aspiration to get affection from your father and the kingdom are doomed, because I am his favorite wife. If you really want to get the affection of your father and become the king, you should give up this body," means kill yourself, "and take birth from my womb. Then you might get eligibility to actually get the grace of your father." For a 5-year-old boy, this was too much to take. And that boy was a Kshatriya. Fierce Kshatriya spirit. Kshatriyas, if they can survive anything but not insult or honor to themselves. And then he's breathing heavy sighs. His face becomes pale. Tears running around his cheek. He goes to his mother. He says, "This is what has happened. Help me." And the mother says, "Well, what should I do? I'm worse than maidservant of the king. He doesn't like me. But I heard that Narayan can help you. You should take shelter of Narayan." "Where does Narayan live?" Sages said that he lives somewhere in the forest. "Okay, I must go meet Narayan." And he starts walking into the forest all alone. And Uttanapada is like, he hears the news that his 5-year-old son has taken off the forest. Because while Suniti was saying all these things, Uttanapada never protested. Kings, they have this problem. If they are not seen as equal, then they can create enmity. Or they can create some problems. And he walks off to the forest. And Narada comes. Narada is amazed. "Oh my God, look at this 5-year-old boy. His mother said some few words, and he is now giving up everything and walking to the forest. Did he think that there were safe ways and free food in the forest? It was filled with dangerous animals. How will he live?" So Narada intercedes. "Dhruva, where are you going? What happened?" So this happened. I need to meet Narayan. Narada says, "Really? You're a 5-year-old boy? You shouldn't be taking your mother's words seriously. You should be doing the things boys do. Nintendo, Wii, Xbox, whatever. You shouldn't be taking these things seriously. You should go back home. You should play. You should enjoy with your friends. That's what you should be doing." And Dhruva says, "Look, I have to meet Narayan. If you can help me meet Narayan, please. Otherwise, this way, Haribol." Narada is like amazed. He says, "Look at the determination of this boy." And then Narada gives him instructions. And one of the instructions is 4:8:34. Please. Kindly repeat after me. Gunadikan mudam lipse anukrosham gunadhaman maitrim samanadan vichen natapair abhibhuyate. Translation. Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. purported by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Generally, we find someone more qualified than ourselves, we become envious of him. When we find someone less qualified, we deride him. And when we find someone equal, we become very proud of our activities. These are all the causes of material tribulations. The great sage Narada therefore advised that a devotee should act perfectly. Instead of being envious of a more qualified man, one should be jolly to receive him. Instead of being oppressive to a less qualified man, one should be compassionate toward him, just to raise to proper standard. And when one meets equal, instead of being proud of one's own activities before him, one should treat him as a friend. One should also have compassion for people in general who are suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna. These important functions will make one happy within this material world. So you can see when Narada gives this, he's saying that doing the opposite of what is mentioned will lead one to more suffering rather than in any happiness. And besides, please understand that every single person who can act, who has the ability has been given by Krishna. Time and again he mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that I am the ability in man. If a particular sports person is excelling like no others, and he's scoring more runs or more baseball points or whatever numbers or statistics you want to throw about, it's not his or her own effort. It is there, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that I'll put in my name for Olympics 100-meter dash. I shouldn't be doing that. It will be not so nice. We have our efforts, please don't get me wrong, but that effort has to be blessed by Krishna to be successful. And when you see people in this world who have made names for themselves in ways others haven't, know for certain that Krishna is behind that phenomena. Otherwise, it's impossible for anyone to make name for their own self or become famous or powerful or whatever you want to name it. But at least through Krishna consciousness, if you do that, and if you have that desire, and some people might say that I have that genuine desire to be a powerful or famous or rich, which might not be pure Krishna conscious or wealthy for that matter, then please approach Krishna. Instead of using envy as a motivation, one can actually approach Krishna to fulfill your desires. It's not that Krishna is stingy. He doesn't want to give stuff. In fact, Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasambrama Sevyamanam. He has thousands of Lakshmis serving him. So for him, a little money is not a big deal. When it's little for Krishna, it can mean an entire planet. Brahma has his own planet. As we hear the story of Dhruva ahead, he goes to the forest, and in 6 months, he pleases Krishna. In the first month, it is mentioned that he barely eats roots or leaves every some day. 6th day, I don't remember all the details. Third day, thank you. And in the 2nd month, he's only water for every some days. 6 days, thank you. Okay, numbers, accounting. It's good to have an accounting person here. And in the 3rd month, please use the mic. You should give right from the beginning.
Every 9 days he breathes air.
Okay, so go from the beginning. Go from the top.
So in the first month, every 3 days he eats some leaves and roots.
That have fallen on the ground. He doesn't really go and... Okay, go ahead.
2nd month, every 6 days water. And then 3rd month, every 9 days he breathes. Yeah.
Every 9 days he breathes. Okay.
After that, I don't know.
And then last 2 months he doesn't breathe.
I don't know.
Kids, don't try this at home without adult supervision. And why do you think Krishna comes? Did Narayan come after that time to meet him? Why do you think he comes? So, you know what? This is nice, right? Why do you chant Hare Krishna? Why can't we do what Dhruva did? Instead of chanting Hare Krishna for 60 years and still no guarantee of seeing Krishna, 6 months, you should see Krishna. A little bit tough. You might die in the process. I mean, breathing 9 days, every 9 days, okay, breathing leaves, eating leaves, that itself is a problem right from word go. That to every 3 days. Because if you eat leaf once in 3 days, then you don't even have energy to pick up the leaf for the next third day. It is mentioned, the acharyas have said that at the end of 6 months, Dhruva's austerities become so intense that he is able to assimilate the entire life airs of the universe within him. And all the demigods, they can't breathe. Their breathing process is stopped. And they go to Lord Vishnu and say that we are not able to do our service to you. Please help us. And then Lord Vishnu says, yeah, I know. This boy in the forest. I'll go and meet him. So that's how he comes. And when the Lord comes in front of Dhruva, Dhruva sees the Lord and he offers his full prostrated obeisances. And then he looks up at the Lord, tears are flowing from his eyes. Please understand, by that point, he didn't complete his PhD from Stanford. He couldn't even offer proper prayers to the Lord. He's a 5-year-old boy. How much can you compose Sanskrit, perfect Sanskrit? And here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom you need to offer prayers, either out of his voice choked with emotions, or because he couldn't, for some reason, Bhagavatam doesn't specify exactly, but he cannot offer his prayers to the Lord. And the Lord just takes his shankh and then puts on top of his head. And then Dhruva, in ecstasy, he belts out beautiful prayers praising the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Laghu Bhagavatamrita mentions that this avatar is called Prishnigarbha. And then the Lord says, I know why you are doing this austerity. And I'll give you this Dhruvalok planet. And that planet is even superior to Brahma. And Bhagavatam mentions that planet is so powerful that all the planets revolve around Dhruvaloka. That planet is never subject to destruction. And Dhruva's whole aim or purpose of meeting the Lord was satisfied. That he got a kingdom that which is greater than that of his grandfather. And that was the goal of his whole austerities. After that, the Facebook was flooded with Dhruva's Dhruvaloka. Twitter went abuzz. And Dhruva was giving interviews to different TV channels, inviting journalists to come to Dhruvaloka. Nothing of that sort happened. Dhruva was, if you get this, people get one small position, they become so happy. But what if you get your own planet and that planet is so superior? You should be jumping with joy. You should be screaming out, yes! But he didn't do. He's a 5-year-old boy. In fact, Dhruva said, what did I do? The great sages cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in millions of years. Pantastu koti shatavatsara sampragamyo vayorathapi manaso muni pungavanam. Brahma Samhita says that many births, the sages who are perfect control their breath. And those who have achieved perfection in this breathing process and austerities are able to see the tip of the toenail of Lord Govinda. And here is Krishna in his complete eternal form. He gave me the darshan in just 6 months. What did I ask him? More material benediction. That Lord who can sever the cycle of birth and death in an instant. I just asked him, give me more material benedictions. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you have that envy that you cannot control, that others have, then follow Dhruva and worship Krishna. He can fulfill those desires. And then Dhruva said, oh my God, I did a mistake. I shouldn't have asked Lord for anything. But I asked for this. And the Lord said, I have to rule this planet for 36,000 years. Actually, the Lord didn't even say, you can go to Dhruvaloka right away, it's yours. He said, no, first rule your planet on the earth. Oh my God, earth. It's like you are offered the CEO of some company, some huge multi-million-dollar company, but you have to have a small cube as your office for 2 years before you can be the CEO and enjoy your big office. He said, first rule this earth. Because his mother, okay, I'll come back to that point. He ruled this earth first and then go to Dhruvaloka. And they said, the Lord is still keeping me in this material world. This is the nature of my desire. And the Lord fulfilled it. So envy can be used in a positive way to achieve Krishna, or it can be used in a destructive way like Duryodhana. The choice is ours. Under all circumstances, if one takes shelter of Krishna, Krishna will never, ever, ever forsake or give anything less. In fact, he will give much more than what you can even dream of. That is Krishna. It's called Vanchatita. So the best way, Narada here, he says that in our day-to-day life also, if we can adopt these principles of how we can deal with people on our level or level above us or below us, then we'll be happy and we'll be free from material tribulations. In the material world, exactly opposite. If you see someone above us, then you have become really envious. Oh my God, how is he like this? I should have been like that. But he or she is like that. And when somebody is below us, we deride him. We don't even know this much. How come? And then when one is equal, oh, you are equal to me? I have this stuff. What do you have? This is the first aspect of overcoming envy, is to control our own behavior is one aspect. The second aspect is mentioned is in the 9th canto, 11th chapter, 23rd verse. Please. Kindly repeat after me. Purusho Ramacharitam Shravanair Upadarayan Anrishyamsya Paro Rajan Karma Bandhair Vimuchyate. Balivardhan Prabhu, please read the translation.
O King Parikshit, anyone who orally receives these narrations concerning the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes will ultimately be freed from the disease of envy and thus be liberated from the bondage of fruitive activities.
Thank you. Purport, please.
Here in this material world, everyone is envious of someone else. Even in religious life, it is sometimes found that if one devotee has advanced in spiritual activities, other devotees are envious of him. Such envious devotees are not completely freed from the bondage of birth and death. As long as one is not completely free from the cause of birth and death, one cannot enter the Sanatan Dham or the eternal pastimes of the Lord. One becomes envious because of being influenced by the designations of the body. But the liberated devotee has nothing to do with the body, and therefore he is completely on the transcendental platform. A devotee is never envious of anyone, even his enemy, because the devotee knows that the Lord is his supreme protector. He thinks, what harm can the so-called enemy do? Thus a devotee is confident about his protection. The Lord says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tatheva bhajami aham. According to the proportion of one's surrender unto me, I respond accordingly. A devotee must therefore be completely free from envy, especially of other devotees. To envy other devotees is a great offense, a Vaishnava aparadha. A devotee who constantly engages in hearing and chanting Sravana Kirtana is certainly freed from the disease of envy, and thus he becomes eligible to go back home back to Godhead. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you. So the one way to destroy the envy is to continuously hear about the pastimes of the Lord, because we realize then how great is Krishna, how everybody belongs to Krishna, and how is Krishna as a super soul is sitting in everyone's heart and giving them their dues. Otherwise, think about it. There is so much of topsy-turvy nature of this world. A person apparently seems to be performing very nefarious activities, or maybe very sometimes even illegal or unethical activities, yet they seem to prosper, whereas person who seems to be virtuous, like Yudhishthir, could be in the forest. If this particular principle is not followed, then you become conditioned to the bodily life, and you do all the activities that still will perpetuate you in this material existence. The envy is such that if you have that in the heart, then you are guaranteed repeated birth and death. Then a question comes up, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, unless you are not envious of me, you can get this message. Yes or yes? But then the point is, I have envy in the heart, can I listen to Lord's message? It's a catch-22 situation. Is everybody getting the catch-22 situation? Unless I am free from envy, I cannot receive the messages of the Lord. But unless I receive the messages of the Lord, in this case it is mentioned, I cannot be free from envy. So, the answer to that question is, it is both. The Lord's representative is Sri Guru, and at least by taking shelter of the representative of the Lord and following the instructions of that particular representative, then one gets the mercy of the Lord, at least to that point. Or on the other hand, if you can continuously hear and recite about the pastimes of Krishna, then you can still, your heart becomes free from envy. It's both the ways. Is that did I answer my own question or not so much? Okay. Questions, comments? Yes, your good name. Please give him the mic.
My name is Shiva.
Shiva.
Yeah. I just wanted to put a point that...
Shiva, you have to hold your mic like this.
Okay. Just wanted to make a point. I think somewhere Kunti Devi in Bhagavatam, right? She says, if you have real blessings of God, you will be put into a lot of destitute and troublesome situation. That's when you get chance to remember God. Otherwise, you will be trapped by Maya and you will be serving Maya. So, if you get more troubles, like in a destitute situation, it's like you should take it as a blessing rather than taking it as something negative way.
Thank you. So you're saying that, if I understand you right, you're saying that the troubles can be a good way of counteracting the envy?
Yeah, instead of, I'm saying instead of envy is all about becoming lower, because you are not going to, envy comes into picture when you are not able to grow, right? Suppose you are on top of the world, you won't envy anyone, right? So instead of so you're not on top of the world because you haven't gone to that growth situation, right? So you are still developing. So what I'm saying is, if you are in the low situation, whatever the right position, whatever your position you are in, the more low position you are put into, the more blessings for you to remember the reality of the reality every day. Remember the God. I'm not saying that you should not get into the better position. Better position is just materialistically. Better position is, that's one thing which makes life, everyday life, compatible. But the reality is not everyday life is not a reality. Material world is not a reality, right? So you should not be trapped by the Maya, but we should be always remembering what is real, nothing but Krishna. So that's why, so in material world, the more you put into troublesome, the more you remember Krishna.
So, Shiva, what you're saying is that I shouldn't quit my job and set up a homeless tent below the overpass. That's what you're saying.
I didn't say that. Krishna says, do your duty. So, everybody...
No, thank you. Thank you for the point. While it is true that one's difficulties and one is put in a lower position, does he have a mat? When when you are put into low, and that's what Queen Kunti says, that vipatada shantata shashvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yat syat apunar bhavadarshanam. But please understand that one might not be having that kind of capacity to take on, and Krishna might give you that, you might just not be able to take it. So the better prayer for the devotee is that if you want to give us trouble, it's your prerogative, but please give us the strength to tolerate.
Yeah, that should be our request when God appears in front of us. That's what instead of asking us to give the affluence, give me the ability to tolerate everything.
Yeah. So Shiva, the other point you mentioned is that if you are on the top of the world, there is no envy. Usually, you should be taking as many troubles as you can. But I beg to differ, because nobody can be on the top of the world better than Hiranyakashipu was. In fact, we talk of being a CEO of a small company or even a president of a big country of this world. And then maybe some dictators had in the past wanted to conquer the whole earth. And they couldn't, but still they tried.
So that's what, materially, you're trying to never be the top. So, only you can be top when you become one with Krishna.
No, let me complete my thought. So, there was, you had something? Okay. So, there was, on the top of the world, there was nobody on the top of the world except Hiranyakashipu. Forget this earth. He ruled the entire universe. Forget the universe. He actually controlled all the demigods. If Hiranyakashipu said to the wind god, stop blowing, he would stop blowing. If he said to the sun, stop rising, the sun would stop rising. Except it is mentioned in Bhagavatam, Vishnu, Shiva and Brahma, all the other demigods were under his control. Now you cannot imagine a more powerful position or being on the top of the world like Hiranyakashipu. But he was envious of his son Prahlad. He was so disturbed by the fact that I could not kill my own son, where I asked to be free from death. And Brahma, I asked the boons, where I said to Brahma, I shouldn't be killed. Brahma said, no, I can't give you that boon. You cannot, it's not, even I'll die. So, you will die too. I can't help it. All right, laundry list of insurance. I can't be killed here, bap, chuck. And he became the most powerful person. And then when he tried to kill his own son, he could see that Prahlad was not dying, no matter what he tried. He became so envious of Prahlad. So envy is irrespective of which place or which position you are in this material world.
Yeah, I get the point, probably.
Because, there is nothing like top of the world. Top of the world is only Krishna, which you rightly pointed out.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, Hiranyakashipu, even he was thinking Prahlad is different than himself, Krishna. Right? Yeah. So, when I say top of the world, you become part of Krishna. So, when you become part of Krishna, is like when you think part and parcel of Krishna, right? So, as I say, my heart is, you can say I'm Shiva, right? Because it's part of me, right? So, if I become as Krishna wishes other to become, as Krishna wants us to become, then I become part of Krishna. When I become part of Krishna, it's becoming top of the world. So that's what, when you become Krishna, means you are seeing everything as part of you. So that's how we become top of the world. So if you are seeing me and me different, when you see two things differently, you cannot be top, right? So because there are two things, always there is up and down.
Thank you for your points. We'll discuss offline more. Yes, Balivardhan Prabhu, and then Shamru Prabhu, and then Shraddhamati.
So I think coming back to the purport, the 2 points which Prabhupada mentioned envy starting with the devotees, because he understands that the other people are definitely envious, so it didn't even count. So now the devotees are envious means definitely it is a deep-rooted substance which needs to be tackled. And solution, the cause of the problem he gave is the identification of the body. Basically, everybody, we think of our manifestation of opulence in terms of body, house, cars, children, relationship, birth, and all these things associated with the body. That's why the envy is making a sphere within the mind. And in different contexts, if you see, that devotees like when Kunti and Gandhari, even who gave birth first, even when Gandhari came to know that Kunti also delivered like Yudhishthir Maharaj in the forest, so she caused herself and, giving a thumbs in her, tummy in order to make sure that why I'm pregnant and the kids are not coming out. Means the point is the envy level will remain to some gross level from all of us. But the problem is those who act violently, like Duryodhan, it is not that there is an envy within the gopis to compete, but the thing is we are constitutionally realized that I am not going to harm the other persons. We know that I need to protect it. I need to respect it. In that way, the envy is coming, but the person is understood how he is reacting to the other person's things like Duryodhana and all, very severely, violently against to sending them into the jail, sending demons to attack them and harass them. But here in this case of Gandhari is envious, she is lamenting on her own and not really causing destructions to Kunti. So there are different levels of we should realize. So at least for the devotee level, it is a good chance that we can realize ourselves, and even though the envy comes into the mind, we can guard against it, and we should not take appropriate actions that will prevent.
So you're saying we should check our own envy to not act on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Nice point. Shamru Prabhu and then Shraddha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So thank you for bringing up this cure for envy. So here it is mentioned that by giving oral reception and discussing, meditating on the pastimes of Lord Rama, we can be free from envy. This one correlates with last Sunday. Vasishtha Prabhu was giving a class, and from a beautiful verse he was quoting, and in that verse, in the purport we were reading that just like there is a seed, and if there is a flood, then the seed is destroyed. So when there is a flood of Krishna consciousness, then actually the seeds of envy, which the deep things, which a sticky substance and doesn't easily go away. So by raising our Krishna conscious level and by taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as it was discussed in that verses, of course here Lord Ram, either case, raising our Krishna consciousness level, meditating on the pastimes of the Lord, is a beautiful point you brought up here, the cure for envy. Thank you.
Thank you. Shraddha Mataji, and then Tadiya Seva Prabhu, and then Anandadev Prabhu. Anandadev Prabhu, and then Tadiya Seva Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I was just thinking about where it said that if you're envious, then you don't want to listen to Krishna Katha. And I was thinking about how in the second chapter, the divinity and divine service, they say that if you serve a devotee of the Lord, then you will develop the desire to listen to Krishna Katha.
Thank you.
And I was thinking about Narad Muni story, life story, that although he was the son of a Shudrani, but still he just served the Mahatmas. Yeah.
Excellent point. Thank you, Mataji. Anandadev Prabhu.
Thank you so much for the wonderful points, Prabhu. I just had a few thoughts. One, to echo something that Shamrupa Prabhu said, and then something that was said earlier. And that is that if your aim is to try and climb up the hierarchy of life, then anyone who's above you who has something that you don't, then you'll start to become envious of them. And actually for us, in our kind of understanding, our philosophy is, our journey isn't to climb to the top, but rather our journey is to get to the bottom. And if you understand that I'm actually the servant of the servant of the servant, and actually I'm the lowest, I'm the most removed, and my job is to serve someone else, then there's no question of the servant being envious of the master, because the servant understands he is sustained by the master. And so for us as devotees, the way that you escape envy is to understand deeply and truly, not just theoretically, but deeply within the heart, that actually my role is to serve everyone else. And therefore how can you then be envious? So I think if we think we can conquer envy by trying to get more and more and climb higher and higher, actually that envy becomes more deeply rooted. But actually, if you go lower and lower, and you realize everyone's above me, then you can, I think,
thank you.
Tackle that envy.
Wonderful point. Tadiyasya Prabhu.
Prabhu, envy is a serious problem, you know. It's like we have been cultivating envy in this material world since time immemorial. And after hearing so many devotees speak on this subject, I'm trying to understand the dynamics of envy.
Thank you.
So obviously, in this material world, everybody is envious of everybody else, somebody else. So let's say, as a devotee, we understand that envy, we need to avoid envy. And, it's a serious problem. And on a degree of 1 to 10, sometimes people can be on the top, or sometimes people can be in the middle, or sometimes people can be in the bottom of that degree. So let's say if we are seriously trying as a devotee, we understand it's a problem, and we are trying not to be envy, and we are taking steps, by doing all the things that are required to get rid of the envy. But sometimes, because of the conditioning, material conditioning, let's say you're not successful. Should we lose the hope, or should we continue the fight?
Well, we don't have a choice. You keep continuing the fight. Yeah, unless you want to stay in this world, sure, you can keep continuing. Because Prabhupada says here that, that is the root cause of staying at repeated birth and death. So, but please understand that the process of Bhakti Yoga is very effective and it's immediate. The other point is that by reading the pastimes of the Lord, it is not that Krishna is waiting for you to clear your own house. He's waiting for a long time. You completely clear your own house or clear your own heart, then I will come. But the process of Bhagavatam is so potent that just by serving Bhagavatam even to a little extent, that Krishna is willing to come and sit in your heart and help you clean those. Ramansaka Prabhu, please, let's do 284. Thank you. This is another point, is because the process of bhakti is so potent that Krishna doesn't wait for a long time. So kindly repeat after me. Shrinvata Shraddhaya Nityam Grinatascha Svacheshtitam Kalena Nati Dhirgena Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna manifest in their hearts within a short time. And now what next, please? 285. Krishna will sit in your heart, but is it very clean, or what happens? Sanskrit? Pravishta karna randrena Svanam bhava saroruham Dhunoti shamalam Krishnaha Salilasya yathasharad. The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of the self-realized devotees, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon the pool of muddy waters. So Bhagavatam has such power that it can not only attract Krishna to your heart, even if it is not supremely clean or 100% clean, that Krishna will help you. So there is no hope, there is complete hope, Tadiya Seva Prabhu, that by taking this process, the heart becomes really cleansed. and permanently. And go ahead. In last 5-7 minutes, I'll extremely briefly touch upon the spiritual jealousy and envy, and that's a whole other topic that we're not going to deal with so much, because as we are in the bodily concept of life, we deal with the material envy, but there is something called spiritual envy that is a little different. Any other questions? Any other final points? Yes, Shiva had his hand, and then Mataji after that.
Just wanted to make a point. Do I envy myself? No, right? Nobody envies himself.
No, depends.
When you compare with the, you will envy yourself.
No, the thing here is, some people who are not dissatisfied with what they have, you always go on a negative approach. I need more.
Yeah, I mean, satisfaction, everything comes when you want something. Then
Shiva, you have to keep the mic, because nobody can hear you. You have to keep the mic like this.
Sorry, yeah, sure. I mean,
and don't move the mic.
Everything comes when you desire something. Then, you are saying something, there's something other than you. So what I'm trying to put a point is, if you consider each one of us is like a cell in the universal body of God, we're all the same. So if you think that way, we're all the same, we help mutually, you're helping ourselves. Because in each cell in the body is healthy when each one helps other. Heart helps the brain helps the heart, right? So in the same way, if you think everyone is a part of the universal body of the God, and you help each other with a compassion and love, because ultimately you're helping yourself and by helping others. So in that way, you can get rid of the envy, right?
Thank you. Mataji, and Shamaru Prabhu, and then Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. You have to introduce yourself. Your good name.
Yeah, my name is Barkha.
Barkha. Thank you, Mataji, for coming.
I just have one question. Suppose there are two kids, and one kid is making a card for the father, and the other kids see, okay, my brother is making a card for the father, I should make a card and a cake for my father. Right? So is this an envy or an inspiration? Because ultimately both of them are doing for their father.
So thank you. This will actually nicely segue into the next part, which I wanted to touch. So, often you hear about temples doing book distribution, and then I know the smile is immediately apparent on the face of the book distributors. And there is some sort of, competition going on in the temples. I have to do better than this temple. All the temples technically are serving the same Supreme Personality of God. It's Sri Krishna. I'll come to that point. And then there is a competition, and that competition was there during Srila Prabhupada's time, and he encouraged it. But the spirit of that particular competition is simple. That I will do, in this case, I'll pick a person. No, it's okay. Yeah, I'll pick a person. I'll do better than Achyuta Chaitanya Prabhu in devotional service, so that he gets inspired and he does better than me, and then I get inspired by him and I do better than him. That sort of healthy competition is different than being destructive, as being causing harm. And in both the cases, we can see that Duryodhana's envy and the co-wives of Maharaj Chitraketu's wife, Kritadyuti, their envy was destructive, and that led to murder or attempted murder. In one case, it was a murder of a baby. In other case, multiple murders to kill the Pandavas. So that is a malicious, malignant envy. But if that envy is in a spirit of helping each other, then truly you are not trying to actually do anything, malignant. In fact, with your example, the third son, the first son will say, "Oh, you made a card and a cake. Let me make a card and a cake and mow the lawn, or wash." So you see, it's a competitively it goes, rather than having this negative effects. Or you made so the same example, you made a card and a cake, I'll take the cake and put it in the trash. Based on how you look at it, it can fuel the positive side of you or the negative side of you. Which you choose is yours. Is that helpful? Okay. The other envy we hear, or the jealousy we hear, is a topic that is not definitely for this discussion, but I'll briefly touch upon it. In the spiritual world, as Balimardhan Prabhu earlier was mentioning, that the gopis have certain kind of jealousy or envy towards Krishna. And then that sort of envy or jealousy is completely transcendental. It is meant to evoke the pleasure of the Lord in his dealings with his devotees. The case in point being that we celebrated Gaur Purnim, where Sriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Radha and Krishna combined, who came with the mood, complexion and sentiment of Srimati Radharani. Now, Radharani, when she sees that Krishna is spending too much time with some other gopi, then her anger or man increases. That man increases only for enhancing the rasa between Radha and Krishna, because the central personality of pleasure or the object to be pleased is Sri Krishna. And same Sri Radharani says that if a particular gopi is refusing to satisfy Krishna, then I'll become the maidservant of that gopi to encourage her to be with Krishna. So in spiritual world, it is completely a different dynamics that happen, and it's a different kind of emotions that are centered around Krishna. And so just wanted to bring that topic to the conclusion. So any final points, questions? Yes, Balivadan Prabhu and then Shamrupa Prabhu. Any reflections? That'll be nice.
So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Saraswati Maharaj said to counterattack envy is one has to at least live in the house or under the direct supervision of a spiritual master for minimum 12 years in order to really subdue the envy which is raised. So just imagine we are not in any personal care of spiritual master living in his ashram, rather than we are free bird, in one way. Definitely we are doing devotional practice, but many other things come. So there is the rigidity of staying, living and getting guidance. So in summary, he said that yes, that can be done by completely staying under the supervision of a spiritual master. But our hope is we should also think like staying by the supervision of spiritual master. If that feeling and that intense mood to come, then naturally the envy will be subdued.
Thank you, Balivadan Prabhu. Shamarup Prabhu.
Lord Chaitanya, in his pastime with Devananda Pandit, he gives a cure, a remedy for this envy. Like Devananda Pandit, although from childhood he studied Bhagavatam, but he could not catch the essence because he offended Srivasa Pandit, Srivasa Prabhu. So, Srivasa Prabhu. So, he could not understand. So, but later when he served Bakreshwar Pandit Prabhu, he was delivered. So, in that context, I think Vrindavan Das Thakur or Kaviraj Goswami. So there is a quotation there that Lord Chaitanya is advising when he is seeking advice. So he is advising, with the same mouth that you have drunk poison, you drink nectar.
Excellent.
So here poison means the blasphemy or envy or criticizing a devotee. But drinking nectar means glorifying the same devotee. So although in our conditioned state, in the current situation, it might look like a tremendous austerity to be able to glorify a person, but if we take that step and beg for Krishna's help, but that is the process to get cured. The same person or devotee or whoever we are envious of, if we try to glorify and find good quality in the same person genuinely and try to appreciate, and that will surely, slowly, but surely it will cure our envy. Is one of the process Lord Chaitanya gave in the pastime of Devananda Pandit.
Excellent. Thank you. Dhira Prashant Prabhu has a hand up. And after that is Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I had a reflection and a question. So the reflection was, it's nothing to do with envy, but I was thinking how, Pandavas were going through like all kinds of hardships, and, but still like, they had Krishna on their side, and I don't know whether they really complained saying, we have on your side, why can't you help us? But it shows us that, Duryodhana had everything going for him, but he didn't have Krishna on his side, which eventually led to his destruction. So that's something to look forward to for people who have a lot of troubles, and I'm talking about myself. So the question is about envy. Would it have been a valid envy if Duryodhana said, hey, Krishna is not on my side, I want him on my side? Would that have been a valid envy?
Well, you cannot please Krishna through your envy. Hey God, why are you not on my side?
Okay.
He is supreme, independent. Janmadhyasya yaton. He is, Bhagavatam, the first verse says he is completely independent. So, and he says that only through bhakti can you know me and you can capture me.
Okay.
Because if you don't have that spirit of devotion to Krishna, then there is no question of capturing him. On that note, one point I wanted to add, you brought it up, that Krishna was the friend of the Pandavas and he was constantly worshipped by them, yet why didn't Krishna protect them or prevent the gambling match from happen? And so the Pandavas actually go to the forest. They are very humiliated and they go to the forest. And in the forest, Krishna comes and visits them. And then he says, well, I didn't know all this happened. He said that I was fighting with a demon who attacked Dwaraka city. And I was so busy fighting with him that all this has happened. And had I known this, I would have prevented it. Now, Krishna is so sweet that he is pacifying his devotees. He is the all-knowing Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he wanted this to happen, and his devotees, they accepted it like that. But he consoled them. On a human level, he consoled them. So like that. Mataji raised his hand, and I think that's the last before we can. Yeah, Mataji, your good name?
My name is Gina.
Gina, thank you for coming. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm very new to here, so I think for a lot of people, include myself, mostly we are misunderstand the word envy.
Mm-hmm.
When I was young, between the age of 4 to 11, I gone through a lot. I gone through so much in this whole life. From the age of 4, I have a lot of family problem. But from the age of 11 to the age of 18, I lived through a very, very hardship, which is like a genocide in my country. So very, very bad. And through high school, I can see myself envy with, other student friends. But now that I am older, I understand that I don't have any envy anymore, because why should I envy somebody's life? Because that is not my life to begin with. My life, Lord Krishna gave me this life to experience this life. So why would I want to experience somebody else's life? So and that would clear my heart that, somebody's life is for them to experience, not for me. Even though I have gone through so much horrible hardship in this life, but it's an experience that Lord Krishna gave me. He allowed me that time to experience this life. So towards the end, that's what I'm taking with me. It's experience, not the material things.
Thank you very much. So with that, we'll stop here. I'm so grateful to all of you for patiently listening to the class. Now we can get up and then we can keep the asanas away, and then we'll have the arti for their lordships, Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Gaur Nitai, or Nitai Mahaprabhu and Narsinghadev.
His Grace Srivasa Pandit Prabhu ki Jai. Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu.